Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. It's really nice to see people again. This is the first inside meeting I've attended in 15 months. So let's call it to order, and a pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. David Mechanic, ironically enough, the city appointed him and did it in a hurry, which I appreciated, but he had an unavoidable conflict today, and ironically with City Development Review Committee, and so he cannot be with us, but he is looking forward to being back on the board. Let's move to election of officers and appointments. Mr. Smolker?
Yes, sir. Normally we would have our annual meeting in March, but because we couldn't have a quorum for the March meeting, we have to move the annual meeting effectively to today's meeting. And under the terms of the bylaws, we need to elect officers. Specifically, we need nominations for the president and chair, the vice president, the secretary and treasurer, which is currently vacant. Additionally, we need nominees for an alternate vacancy, well, really for membership in the MPO Technical Advisory Committee, and which Director English currently serves. And we also have an alternate which is currently vacant. So I would suggest you open the floor to nominations. You could probably start with the president and chair.
Yes. Would anyone like to make any nominations?
I nominate Michael English for chair.
Thank you. You know, I've done this a long time, and so I kind of know what's going on, and I have a little more time than most of you. So, yeah, I would happily accept that nomination. And a nomination for vice president. Yeah.
I'd like to nominate Abby Doran for vice president. Sorry.
Thank you. I'd be honored to sit in that position should I be voted as such.
Mm-hmm. So then we have a vacant secretary treasurer. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any nominations for that seat?
I nominate Eric Johnson for that position.
That's great. Mr. Johnson, are you interested?
Let's do it.
Excellent. And David, what else do we have to do?
What I would suggest you do now is just go ahead and vote on the slate.
Okay.
We just, of the
Yes.
nominees.
May I have a motion, please?
Motion to vote or motion to?
Motion to accept the nominations.
I'll motion to accept the nomination.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
We have a second from Ms. Doring Ahern. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. What's next?
Next would be the MPO Technical Advisory Committee.
I'm sorry, can you speak up, please?
I'm sorry. Yeah, the next item would be a nominee for a member for the MPO Technical Advisory Committee, and also for an alternate to that committee. Currently, Director English serves on behalf of THS on the MPO Technical Advisory Committee.
I have been doing that, and I understand what they do. I was on the MPO for several years, and so I'm happy to continue doing it. It would be nice to have an alternate. I don't know if Cal, you may be a conflict for you.
I am actually an alternate already on that committee. So I would, but I will say this, we could probably nominate another alternate for the city of Tampa, and then I could be an alternate for THS. So it would just be switching out the city of Tampa's alternate from me to somebody else, which I think we were already kind of talking about doing.
Yeah, if you could do that and you would be my alternate.
Yeah.
think that's fine, and I appreciate it. I make those meetings most of the time because I'm interested in what the MPO does, but there are certainly days when it might be more convenient for you.
Right.
And if I find I can't make it, I'll let you know well in advance. Okay, do we need a motion to that effect? I think we do.
I'll make the nomination to appoint Mr. Hardy to the technical advisor.
Thank you, Mr.
Do I have
Johnson.
that right? Technical advisory committee, right?
Yep,
Yes.
and a
Okay.
second?
And I second that, please.
So we have a motion and a second. I'll continue, I suppose, as the MPO rep, and Mr. Hardy will be my backup. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
That-
Great, thank
that-
you all very much.
That concludes officers and election of officers
Thank you, Mr. Smolker.
and committee members.
The next item on the agenda is approval of minutes, and we have Board of Director minutes from October 21st, 2020, January 20th, 2021, February and March of 2021. If you've had an opportunity to look at them, which I'm sure you have, are there any additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none.
I can make a motion to do all four of them, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the October 21st, January 20th, February 17th, and March 17th minutes.
Excellent.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Public input, is there anyone registered to speak? Danielle? Hearing none, let's move to action items, number 6. The first is the Resolution R 2021-0401, ratifying inclusion of the THS contract of Vector Media. Essentially that we agreed to become part of Hart's contract, and we went ahead and did it, of course. So are there any questions about this? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution R2021-04-01.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Thank you. Motion carries. 6B, Resolution R 2021-0402, accepting the final 2019 audited statement prepared and presented at one point by Mr. Huffstetter, who is not here today, but are there any questions?
President English, he's on the line if you would like for him to
Okay,
speak.
oh, good to know. Are there any questions about that audit?
There are not. I motion to approve Resolution R2021-0402.
Thank you.
Second.
And we have a second from Mr. Johnson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Streetcar System Performance Report, Mr. Allen.
Good afternoon, Brian Allen, Director of Streetcar Operations. For March 2021, start out with ridership. Ridership for March was 89,900, which is almost pre-COVID levels. Last year March was the first month we started to feel the impact of everything, and that ridership was 51,642. So our ridership is definitely returning. Of that number for March, 45 of them were ADA boardings. On-time performance for March was 99.92 with 3 reported late departures. We also had 16 3/4 missed trips. They were caused by, 3 3/4 were caused by mechanical issues. 1 missed trip was because we didn't have enough rested operators. And 12 trips were caused because of a crossing accident on March 19th where streetcar 436 was heading south here on Channel Side and a car hit the streetcar coming out of a private drive. It was a hit and run. The streetcar received some minor damage to its step. Nobody was injured in the accident, but our motorman was pretty shaken and he was asked to be relieved, and we did not have a replacement operator for him. So the rest of the evening we ran 3-car service. And other than that, infrastructure-wise, as we reported on at the last meeting, Our track contractor during the month replaced 155 cross ties down just north of the Cumberland Station. So does anybody have any questions for me?
All that work you did in advance of the city's improvements to Channelside Drive?
Yes, that's, we specifically had to get it done because they're going to be putting crosswalks in that area. And we wanted to make sure that we had a good firm base and that we didn't have to go back in the future and tear it out.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Brian. Any questions of Mr. Allen?
Just like to say, 89,000 riders in the month of March is an outstanding
Yeah, it really is.
return to business. We don't even have convention years yet, and the ridership is back. And I understand that convention years will be back beginning of July, so we'll expect another big uptick.
Yeah.
when that happens.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Allen.
Thank you all.
Okay, legal and legislative reports, Mr. Smoker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Only one item, which is a request to ratify a letter that was signed by Chairman English and co-signed by CSX relating to our agreement with them involving reducing the amount of liability coverage under the requirements of our agreement with CSX from $100 million to $50 million. We were not able, in the time frame where we had to act, to be able to bring it to the board at that time, but the bottom line is that it resulted in a net savings of probably close to $200,000 to THS for purposes of its obligation to fund the liability policy. The reason the letter was requested by CSX was because I think they were aware of the fact that there are plans to expand, that there will be additional crossings that we will have to talk with them about in the future at the time that we do start to expand. And I think they wanted to be sure that we knew this was in their mind a one-time agreement to reduce the funding, and it didn't establish a precedent. I guess we'll see how much of a precedent it really did establish next year when we sit down and renew the policy. So what I would like is simply a vote to ratify
Sure.
the signature of Mr. English on the
Yeah, I must say, I want to thank you, and particularly Grant Mueller. He's quite an astounding young insurance agent, and on his own recognizance, he decided this is something he thought he could do, and he has a good relationship with CSX, and so you guys pulled it off, and I was pretty impressed and surprised. They've never been particularly cooperative, and probably won't be again in the future, but who knows? So, thank you very much, and could I have a motion to ratify this?
You're welcome, and really credit goes to Mr. Mueller.
Yeah.
So moved.
I have a motion, and I need a second, please. We have a second for Mr. Hardy. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
That would conclude my report.
Thank you, David. I don't really have a report, but someone thoughtfully put a biography down here for me, for David Mechanic. For those of you who don't know him, he's one of the best land use lawyers in town. And he's also a certified planner and a certified court mediator. He and I were present when we incorporated the streetcar, Tampa Historic Streetcar, and he's been on the board virtually as long as I have. He was bumped off by the Board of County Commissioners last year, he and Adam Harden, for a strange rule they have. At any rate, I think I've sent all of you this little memo, but the city didn't have enough appointees anyway. 6 is a silly number. You need an odd number on a board anyway. So I reached out to the mayor, and she appointed David. So I'm really happy to have him back. His experience is really useful, and the fact that he's an attorney is really useful because, like all good attorneys, he pays attention to details, and he reads his stuff and pays attention. I don't think did everybody get this, or just me?
Just you, Dave.
Just me, yeah. So, in addition to being an important streetcar guy, he was on 2 Super Bowl task forces, chairman of the Sports Authority at one time, chairman of the Downtown Partnership, chairman of the Growth Management Committee of the Chamber, vice president of the County Review Board, president of West Shore Alliance, among his other accomplishments. So he's a great addition, and he will undoubtedly be here in person next month for you to meet. He's a pretty cool guy. Okay, that is my report. Ms. LeGrand, is your time for a report.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone, and again, good to see all of you face to face. I just have a couple of brief updates. One, we are aware that the funding for the no fare collection on the streetcar is coming to a close, so staff has been working with our partners to see if we can continue that. As we continue our conversations, we'll be providing updates relating to what we've heard, and we'll also look to you for assistance with this. I know myself and Mr. English have talked about this in the past to see if we can find additional funding to keep
Sure.
the service at no fare. So I just want to make sure we're as proactive as possible so we can have the conversation before the next budget cycle. The second thing I wanted to share is that I have had the opportunity to ride the streetcar a couple of times, and I noticed something, which is the time it takes to deploy the lift for those who require the lift because of ADA needs. And watching the process, it's very timely. It takes a lot of time for the lift to come down and then for an individual to get placed on the lift. And the last observation I had was a young person who definitely knew how to maneuver his wheelchair. It was personally designed. It was pretty cool looking, and you could tell that he was frustrated with the time it took for him to no longer be independent and having to be dependent on the operator to get the lift working. So I have started doing some desktop review as far as technology that exists currently to expedite or speed up that process.
Oh, that's a great idea.
And then just to see, what the market offers. And I just wanted to share with the group that this is an area that I think will not only benefit us, but benefit our community. You did hear from Mr. Allen the number of folks who used the system over the last cycle that did require the use of the lift. So just wanted to share that with you. I'm going to have staff look into some of what I've gleaned from my desktop review and see if, what we can do, how we can implement, if we can, and what we can implement to make the system a little more updated. And just for a point of reference, our system is pretty old, the ADA component of the lifts and the technology that we're using, and there is newer technology on the market now.
I'm sure there is.
So it's just a matter of not changing everything, but just maybe looking to see how much it would cost to replace what we currently have with something that's a little more recent in technology. So those are my updates, and again, thanks for the opportunity.
No, that's a great observation, and I don't know how much longer we'll have the current stations and the need for it, but it's going to at least be 3 or 4 or 5 years, so, yeah, so thank you very much. And again, very nice to be in the same room.
Mr. Chair,
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson, yes.
I just wanted to comment on Ms. LeGrand's report regarding the ADA stuff. I know we've had conversations at the heart level regarding ADA and making sure that we are doing everything we can to be as compliant also, but to be as forward-thinking on that stuff. So hearing you say that first, right out of the box right now, I appreciate that. That's a big thing to me, and I certainly will be watching stuff like that. As far as on the ADA side, I think it's very important for us to be able to do. So thank you for doing that first thing.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson. Excuse me. Okay, let's move to Vector Media Sales Activity Update. Mr. Rowland.
Good afternoon, Board. Good afternoon, Chair. For the month of March, new business, we had Miller Coors, easy for me to say, with a full wrap on one of our streetcars. We also have streetcars being wrapped with new clients, the Johnson Realty Group, that'll be starting June 7th. We also have Brooks Law starting on June 14th. And then we have a couple events. The Villain Arts event will have a wrap for 9/27 of '21. And we have another event, the NDAIA, that'll be starting next year in April, that's confirmed for a wrap on one of our streetcars. We also have a new sponsorship for Central Ybor. It's a six-month starting this August with Mighty Swell Seltzer. And that will be for $10,000 for the 6-month sponsorship.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it sounds like business is sneaking back, Tyler.
Yes, I think the advertisers are starting to get back out there, so it's all good news, and I think ridership is absolutely showing that, so.
That's great. Any questions?
It's nice to see other interested parties besides just the alcohol services and
Yeah.
the cigar businesses. So that's exciting. Is any background information on how those came about? Are the buses just so covered that they,
Well, the streetcars tend to sell out really quickly, and most of those are annual contracts, so some of those contracts are coming due.
Gotcha.
So some new advertisers are able to jump on board.
It's wonderful. Good to see.
Excellent.
Switching it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Tyler.
All right, thank you.
That brings us to compliance reports. We have a marketing summary, the city financial statements. Is there any discussion? Anybody want to talk about them? Or are we good on them? Hearing no comment, do we have any old business to conduct? Any new business to conduct? In which case, I think we're adjourned. I want to thank all of you again for coming here. I look forward to see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks. Meeting is adjourned.
Yeah.